You know that feeling when you wake up tired, even after a full night's sleep, when you push through your day running on empty, wondering where your energy went? Here's something most people don't know, that fatigue may actually be happening inside your cells. That's why I've been using Anti-Factor Lipids powder from Nutritional Therapeutics for years. I don't go a day without it. It's based on over 20 years of research and a patented process called membrane lipid replacement, which actually repairs the damaged components of your cell membranes, restoring your cell's ability to produce energy the way they did when you were younger. Clinical studies show Anti-Factor can reduce fatigue by up to 40%. Just 1 or 2 scoops a day. Mix it in a smoothie like I do, sprinkle it on food, and you're giving your body the science of youthful energy. Anti-Factor Lipids powder comes in 2 convenient sizes. For more information and to order, just call 800-982-9158, 800-982-9158, or go to antifactor.com. That's antifactor.com for Anti-Factor Lipids powder. Welcome back to today's Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ronald Hoffman. Everything you ever wanted to know about mold toxicity, it actually has an acronym, CIRS, Chronic Inflammatory Response Syndrome, if I have it correct, Ariana Thacker. Ariana is a chemical engineer and a former sufferer of mold toxicity. Through her journey, she's discovered a lot about mold toxicity, and as a result, founded Moldco, which is a company that specializes in educating people about mold toxicity, doing some diagnostics, both in the environment and also on the person. There are various tests that you can perform, and also helping people with recovery and mold remediation. All right, so let's start with the environment. How can you become kind of a mold detective in your house? Do you go around with little petri dishes, or can you test the air? Are there little test devices that you can kind of set up and they suck the air in and then can sample the air and tell us whether there's likelihood of mold exposure?
I would say very simply, the visual and sensory inspection of the home is a great place to start. So looking for signs of visible mold, discoloration, peeling paint, warped flooring, having that earthy, musty odor in the home, having consistently high indoor humidity above 60%. So that's free. That's something you can do room by room for the most common signs of water damage and mold exposure in the home. Separate from that, we typically don't recommend the agar plates that you would get on Amazon.
Yeah, that's what we used to do. I mean, that's like 20, 25 years ago. That's what we did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty lo-fi. It's not going to tell you how much mold is really in the environment, and it's just not the best tool. We prefer environmental dust testing, which has its pros and cons. So pros, very easy to use. You can wipe down different surfaces with a cloth, send it in for PCR testing, get a stack ranked order of which species are in the home and how prevalent they are, and then also that typically comes with a low, medium, high score for how problematic that exposure is. Where it's not a complete solution is that if you've had a recent remediation, it does look at historic mold exposure. So you may be picking up on some of that exposure that happened before the remediation happened. If you're sampling from the wrong areas, like right by the window or right on a mold spot, it usually tends to not be accurate. So you have to be sure to follow the instructions. However, it's one of our most favorite ways to inspect a home. And then after that, I would say hiring an inspector that's properly certified, usually ACAC, IICRC, or NORME. They live and breathe mold. They're not like doing this as a subset of a pest inspection company. They're using the thermal gun. They're using air drop sampling as well. Like it's one of many tests to run, not the only test to rely on.
So they have like very sophisticated instruments, kind of like Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call, right?
Yes, and I kind of joke that you want an inspector that's too busy for you. It means you're very good. Like it's usually
Okay.
not a bad sign. So yes.
That's interesting. So there's also this thing of VOCs, volatile organic compounds, which are kind of like gases, and you have to use like what, spectroscopy or chromatography or something to, to analyze an air sample to see if there's these compounds.
Yeah, I would say that's more downstream of mold, and it can also be due to paint and other
Yeah.
sorts in the home. So it's hard to isolate the VOCs to just mold exposure. Just focusing on mold exposure, I would say an environmental dust test. If you want to really invest in environmental dust testing, you can get the ERMI, which is a tool developed by the EPA that looks at 36 different fungal strains. You can also tack on the test for actinobacteria and endotoxins. Some of that endotoxin exposure can come from sewer gas as well as water damage.
Ooh.
So I would say that's a more complete snapshot of what's going on in the home. And then if any of those are lighting up, it's likely worth investing in an inspector to find where those sources are coming from, and then later on a remediator to help
Mhm.
repair and correct those point sources.
So you mentioned a few unique blood tests that basically are within the realm of inflammation, but they're like subsets of what we refer to as inflammation. You commonly perform tests, the SED rate or the C-reactive protein, but those tests tend to aggregate different types of inflammation, and there are certain patterns of these compounds that indicate a greater likelihood of mold exposure.
Yes, uniquely for mold-related illness, mold toxicity, or the severe form, which we're coining as SIRS, we typically don't see HSCRP or
Oh,
ESR
okay.
regulated, which is kind of bizarre, right? You would expect those markers to be dysregulated. We typically don't see patients with ANA positive.
Mhm.
What we do see more commonly outside of the Shoemaker biomarkers, some of them just mentioned, is thyroid dysregulation,
Yeah,
that T4 to T3 conversion tends to be off. We see TPO, we see TSH levels
it's
dysregulated.
autoimmune stuff. Yeah, in the
Yeah, like
thyroid. Mhm.
yeah, we see Hashimoto's in higher prevalence in females. However, what I just described is not published. More so, what's published are the markers VEGF being dysregulated, typically low in patients, MMP9 being high in patients, C4A, unique to the biotoxin illness pathway. It makes sense
Just
being
the complement
upregulated.
pathway kind of
Yes.
things. So these gets into immunology, there, right?
Yes, and then it very interestingly for this illness is MSH, alpha melanocyte stimulating
Hmm.
hormone, being low, almost undetectable in
Huh.
these patients. Yes,
Does it have any implications for sleep or for yeah.
yes, big time. We see impacts to circadian rhythm. We see
Oh,
impacts to pain, lower endorphins in these patients. We even see frequent urination at night. Essentially, what you would expect with HPA dysregulation, most likely due to the neuroinflammation. Yes,
hypothalamic pituitary axis, which is like the master glands for immune system. I'm just translating for you.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like your CPU of your hardware, your body
Hmm.
going haywire, and then the signaling from that becoming dysregulated across
Which
sleep.
can result in such a myriad of symptoms that
Correct.
see bizarrely don't seem connected.
Correct. Yes. And we also see leptin resistance in these
Hmm.
patients
So you
too.
gained weight during this thing.
Yes, I experienced that as well. Rapid weight gain despite diet and exercise.
Huh.
Uh, very interesting patterns in these patients from a cognitive standpoint, metabolic standpoint. There's a term that was coined by Dr. Jimmy Ryan and Dr. Shoemaker in the field called metabolic hypometabolism, where essentially your mitochondria just aren't
Oh, yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, which means they're not burning fat. They're not utilizing energy, and
Yeah.
fat gets deposited. Um, there's a test I think that Dr. Shoemaker recommended, some like visual acuity test that was kind of, is that fallen by the wayside, or is that still used to diagnose this?
Visual contrast sensitivity, our team has debunked that
Okay,
from a virtual standpoint. We still think it's a useful test in clinic. It's also pretty challenging to
to
implement
do,
it.
yeah, right.
There's like you just have to have a lot of know-how, and I
Okay.
haven't going through the process online and in person, it's a challenging test, but it's low cost. It's like
Hmm.
you're just essentially testing your eyesight in person. Just one
Visual
thing.
discrimination is a proxy for brain function.
Correct. Yeah, and the test looks like different stripes, like
Hmm.
different like a dark stripe and a light stripe
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
a circle and multiple patterns of that, and you're trying to distinguish, can you see the lines or not, and which direction are the lines pointing for your left eye and your right eye. And I think what ends up confusing some results too is that if you're an athlete, you tend to have better
Oh,
visual acuity, and then if you have glaucoma or any sort of eye condition, then that
okay.
also
That could
that
throw it off. Yeah.
yeah, correct.
Okay, folks, at this point, let's pause and allow one of our sponsors an opportunity to share an important message with you. So here goes. Please listen up.
Are you ready to experience the future of digestive wellness with Dr. Ohhira's new and revolutionary postbiotic fermented food concentrate? Capsule free and in individual sachet packets that harness the power of 5 years of fermentation and over 500 concentrated bioactive postbiotics. Dr. Ohhira's postbiotic fermented food concentrate is a nutrient dense paste designed to supercharge your digestive health, aid in nutrient absorption, and support whole body immune wellness. Each sachet packet delivers a potent blend of fermented paste and prebiotics, which serve as fuel for your body's own unique gut microbiome. This concentrate supports your entire digestive tract, does not need refrigeration, non GMO, dairy, and gluten free. Dr. Ohhira's postbiotic fermented food concentrate. It is the ultimate embodiment of traditional Japanese fermented craftsmanship, designed for those who seek the highest concentration of nature's restorative power in every serving. Ask your natural products retailer for it today or online at essentialformulas.com.
Thanks for listening and thanks for supporting our sponsors. They are what make Intelligent Medicine continuing free resource to you. And now back to today's guest, mold expert Ariana Thacker. Okay, you mentioned this peptide, which is kind of a little bit the secret sauce to recovery for some people, and that sounds intriguing because peptides are all in the news these days. What's up with that?
Yes, yeah, Dr. Shoemaker was fashionable ahead of his time. So VIP, it's a, I believe, 28 amino acid neuropeptide naturally produced in the body. It goes back to the 70s when
Vasoactive intestinal peptide, I seem to remember. See, like,
correct.
all
Yeah.
that money I spent and all the loans I took out in medical school paid off.
Yeah, nailed it. It's on the category one list, so it actually wasn't needing to be subject to that FDA review that happened recently. And there's published studies on it for this use case. What we're also seeing anecdotally in patients, and this was true for my case too, it regrows areas of the brain that
Hmm.
appear to have atrophied due to mold. So, for example, I was in the 15th percentile for I believe it was my white matter, and that area of the brain regrew back, which was
Well,
interesting to see. Yeah, so we're wanting to study this more.
but it's an intestinal peptide, is it not?
It was first discovered in the intestines, but it's considered a neuropeptide. I think it's actually more prevalent in the lungs than the gut.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, there's like some interesting history like that
Hmm.
with VIP.
Okay. All right. So, could it also have accounted for the gastro symptoms that you experienced, a disruption in that, or was there thought to be like, maybe yeast overgrowth in your intestinal tract? Is that a facet of mold exposure? Is it sometimes people they actually internalize the fungus? They actually have not only external exposure, but internal overgrowth?
We're not entirely sure what happens in the gut. Patterns that other providers have shared with me is that there's less butyrate producing bacteria found. There's some increase in certain actinobacteria found, which was interesting. There's an increase in Prevotella. But the gut, as it relates to SIRS medicine and mold exposure, is the next frontier. I do know of a couple of groups that are researching that further using next gen sequencing. I just don't have that data
Okay.
offhand. But we do note that some of the gut related symptoms tend to come first in these patients. They tend to experience that like IBS type response
Hmm.
due to exposure. which is interesting. And we do see patients later on developing SIBO and SIFO too. So there could be some correlation there
Correlation.
if it's not a root cause driver.
But this is not something like coccidiomycosis, which is like a acquired infection of the lungs usually that people get from inhaling mold spores. Or could this be a facet of this, is that people actually have active pulmonary infections with fungi?
Related to that, there is a subset of practitioners in the space that believe this could be endotoxemia
Hmm.
in the gut. That hasn't been proven yet. We're
Fungal
tracking.
toxins that are,
Yeah. Yeah, so we're still understanding exactly how this works in the body. And this is core to a lot of the R&D that we're looking to advance. We just started sequencing our biobank just recently, and some of the pathways that we see lit up in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's are also lit up in these patients.
Hmm.
We see some of the same pathways in metabolic conditions also lighting up in these patients. So that just establishes, okay, there's something that rhymes here and a similar pattern. And TBD if it's also a root cause driver in neurodegeneration, obesity, and other chronic illnesses, right? Like that's the next step that we were hoping to get clear on.
Okay, well, so you're a chemical engineer, but you're not an MD or, a PhD in molecular biology or immunology. Do you have a research team that you pulled together as kind of the brain trust for
Yeah.
Moldco?
Yeah, thank God I do. They're geniuses. So Dr. Shoemaker's on our team. Thankfully, Dr. Jimmy Ryan, who's been on the publications, Dr. Scott McMahon as well, also considered a world expert and on the publications, Dr. Peg DiTullio. And there are additional team members with PhDs. So they're the ones that are really leading the charge here and analyzing these findings and helping to communicate that to the masses. So that's the team we have, and I would say we're just getting started in that side of the business. Like most of the time, attention, and resources so far was to build the virtual care clinic and the lab testing and environmental testing, and now we're at a point where we're ready to invest a little bit more time and effort and resources in advancing the R&D, which is tied with that sequencing project that I just described.
So you don't just do environmental evaluation and remediation, you also do telemedicine.
Yes, we're a healthcare company.
Hmm.
That's what we do, and the intention of advancing R&D is to find the next generation of biomarkers and treatments to better serve these patients and to even change our understanding of how health works, right? Is it true that mold and these other microbial species contribute to this microbial burden, which then contributes to chronic inflammation and chronic conditions? If so, huge if true, and that's a big miss with standard medical practice.
So in what health conditions might mold be implicated? There's many conditions that are sort of, serious medical conditions that are baffling and challenging. Is it thought that some of these conditions, at least parts of the solution, might be related to mold
Yes.
recognition?
Some of our top picks are Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, ALS, MS, ME/CFS, for sure, fibromyalgia, potentially autism, and obesity. These are some of our top picks right now.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, I really, this is a kind of an ambitious undertaking, but I think, with serious scientists and uh, medical pioneers involved, it may be that some of these, because we're always looking for a magic bullet for some of these conditions. And it may be that these conditions, some of these chronic conditions are a concatenation of, dietary and environmental and lifestyle factors. It's not just we're looking for a single panacea drug, may be misguided.
That's true. And our take as well is that mold is so prevalent and so many people are staying indoors, inhaling those biotoxins because they are biotoxins on a daily basis, that it is a major root cause driver. However, it's not the only root cause driver. having a poor diet, even, having COVID, for example, we believe that COVID may have been a priming event for worse
Yeah,
health outcomes for these patients.
sure.
Epstein-Barr virus, HSV, et cetera. This all adds to something that's now getting coined as the exposome. We believe mold is a major driver in several of the health conditions. So that's where we're starting. It's not our endpoint. We are continuously developing, and the visions to build out the ImmuneCo vision, which is the real company's name, to address multiple of these indications unaddressed by standard medical practice.
Indeed. Okay, so quick and dirty, some 5 simple suggestions for householders, apartment dwellers, to keep mold at bay. Get an air purifier, get a dehumidifier. What are some of the best, simple measures to undertake?
Measure your home, note your indoor humidity. If it's above 60%, consider a dehumidifier. 2, there's a practice of airing out your home, getting clean air in, get air purifiers, check for those environmental signs. We talked about a lot of the visual and sensory cues, that earthy, musty odor, visible mold, peeling paint, discoloration, et cetera. Really pay attention to that. And pay attention to the most common symptoms. It's not just one acute symptom, it's multiple symptoms like brain fog, fatigue, gastrointestinal issues. We even see skin irritation, getting up in the middle of the night with frequent urination issues, and more. If you want to double click on the symptoms, I would look up the symptom clusters by Dr. Shoemaker, and you can see some of the published.
That's at moldco.com.
The symptom clusters, you can just Google that online at moldco.com. We do have a lot of free resources as well. We have a free online assessment. We have a free guide. We have tons and tons of blogs, which are reviewed by our clinical team. So we do have all those resources, which are free on our website too.
Indeed. Well, I think this is an important part of the puzzle because, Americans are suffering from chronic diseases at unprecedented levels. And I think that mold is certainly part of the equation when it comes to challenging health conditions. And I think you are a great exemplar of how one can use one's health challenges to elevate oneself beyond illness and take it a step further, harness your knowledge to help others.
Thank you, Dr. Hoffman. I really appreciate the time and the great questions.
Indeed. Once again, it's moldco, one word, .com for information. And thank you, Arianna Thacker, very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I'm Dr. Ronald Hoffman, and this is the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I want to thank you for listening to the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app, and get new episodes automatically downloaded every weekday. And please give us a rating and review. It truly helps new people discover intelligent medicine. The Intelligent Medicine Podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice, and no doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Finally, please visit drhoffman.com and discover everything Intelligent Medicine has to offer, including frequently updated, unbiased health news and fully vetted product and supplement recommendations. There were many important reasons why I started my FullScript online supplement dispensary. I wanted to offer you the same curated professional-grade supplement brands that I use, the ones I know and trust. I also wanted to ensure that they weren't counterfeit or expired. Recently, I've been hearing more and more about counterfeit or expired products purchased from online retailers. With FullScript, you can be confident your supplements are genuine and they'll arrive with optimal freshness and potency. Also, buying through FullScript offers fast, free shipping, optional refill reminders, and a highly rated mobile app. It's safe, secure, HIPAA compliant, and offers world-class support. Go to drhoffmanstore.com for more information and to start your free FullScript account. You'll get access to the supplements and features you need to help you achieve your wellness goals, including my custom targeted protocols that combine the products I recommend to address specific needs: heart health, immune support, and much more. To get started, just go to drhoffmanstore.com, drhoffmanstore.com.